And we're live.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. I'd make a motion, we adopt the agenda as mailed.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda as we're gonna do it, we're gonna have Mr. Hutton talk along with the administration, then the delegation, and then the board members are free to make comments as they'd like. To start it off, I'll make a little statement. This is to be an informative meeting to let the people and staff of USD 420 know that we have no intentions of going remote in the foreseeable future. We will remain in school as long as possible, as the conditions are safe. Right now, the safest place for all of our students are here, thanks to the custodial staff, paras, teachers, admin, cooks. It is my hope we never go remote, and the board has said on several occasions, we are not in favor of a gating system. With that, Mr. Hutton.
Well, I just start off, I'd just again like to reiterate that if somebody would have asked me if we'd have been in school this long, up to November or Thanksgiving without having to go remote, I would have said, I would have lost money because I wouldn't have bet that we could do that. And that's been the work of a lot of people, administrators, the teachers, the staff, the bus drivers, the cook, everybody have chipped in, the paras. And I think they've done an exceptional and commendable job this year. I also want to point out, I think Lisa and Cassidy have done a terrific job helping us keep track of the numbers and the quarantines, because that's been pretty hard to keep track of. So I thank you for the job. You guys are doing a terrific job with that. I want to recognize Jackie Patterson for her help, and we work with Jackie quite often at the county health. It has been, with the uptick the last 2.5 weeks, has been more quarantines with more cases in the county and across the state. We've seen an uptick in quarantines, and I think along with that, probably everybody's stress level has gone up with that to some extent. So far, we've seemed to have been able to handle, as far as the staffing goes, we haven't lost enough staff to be able to handle school or not have school to this point, and we hope it stays that way. But it has added a considerable amount of stress because of the kids coming in and out of the remote system. And it's been somewhat difficult to keep track of, but I think we've done a commendable job of managing that to this point. So I just want to end my part by just saying I'm proud of everybody, from the teachers to the paras to everybody, the cooks. These guys have done a commendable job, and I'm just proud of everybody for the job they've done. And I'll just turn it over. Mr. Heward, you want to talk about your building?
Yeah, as far as my building goes, I talked to the teachers or sent out an email, and as far as the high school goes, I think their hope is to stay as remote as long as possible. So all the emails, what's that?
On site.
Or on site, not remote.
I was like, whoa.
Remain on site, and continue doing what we're doing. I think the biggest concern is that if our student body loses such the amount that, doesn't make much sense to be here. But, as long as we can hold staff and have enough, staff on board to, carry on the task. And they all believe the best experience for kids is here in the building, in person, and in the classroom. So they all believe strongly that it's the best experience to be in the building. And that's what we're hoping to do, as long as we can have enough staff to do that.
So I'm probably gonna have the same question kind of for each one of you, so you guys get more time to think about it. As I'm thinking about the staff that we have, how close have we come to reaching that point of we don't have enough coverage? Or, can you speak to maybe some of the creativity you've had to do to get coverage maybe?
There's been a couple times where we were short on subs and we did have teachers sub on their planned time in order to cover classrooms. However, the last 3 days have been the first 3 days all year long that we've been full staff. So we have not had any subs in the building for the last 3 days at the high school. And so that is the first time all year long that's happened. Remind you that we had one teacher out for 12 weeks, so that was one person.
Right.
But to this point, the last 3 days, we've had complete staff here. So right now, we're doing really well.
I'm supposed to speak to the elementary school. I've got staff here that's gonna be doing that for me, so I'm not gonna really say very much. But to answer your question, Kat, we've been very creative. I will say that Mrs. Martin and Mrs. Lichtai have done a wonderful job trying to scramble and find subs for different areas, and our staff, thank goodness, is willing to actually cover for different people in the building, and that truly has helped out. I think having that extra incentive of making $25 extra an hour, that has tremendously helped our staff cover different areas and feel like that they're at least rewarded to do that, because that does take away from their plan time. So then they have to do that either in the morning, which that's real difficult to do right now, or at night, after school, so. But they're gonna make a presentation here fairly soon.
For the middle school, we're kind of just like the high school, we're just doing the best we can with what we got. And I think our teachers, I've said many times that, and we've known this from the start, that this was gonna be the toughest year we've had, but I think they've handled it well. And we also agree that the best place for our kids is in the building, and we wanna keep going with that as long as we possibly can. As far as staffing, we've had a couple occasions where we've had to scramble in the morning, we've got it covered. So we move a couple people around and make do, but it hasn't been a big issue in the middle school. We started the year with a teacher on quarantine for a while, so that was probably more stressful for me than anyone else in the building, and that teacher individually, but I think as far as everything else goes, the teachers are stressed out, but they understand that, everyone's stressed out right now, so we're just all doing our best to keep giving our kids the best education they can. I do have a couple emails from a couple teachers that I'll go ahead and read to you guys, and just their thoughts, but as far as our building, we're all pretty much on the same page that we wanna stay going as long as possible and doing what we're doing. This is from Gilbert Gonzalez. Teachers and admin need time. I know we talked about this and that is tough to do, but I just want to make sure this message gets to the board. Thank you both for your support, it's very much appreciated. Thanks for passing this on the board. Teachers are exhausted like never before. I consider making it to Friday a huge victory each week. I often spend the weekends wishing I could catch up, but home life is just as busy for a lot of us, which means catching up is merely a pipe dream. The idea of getting ahead also seems to be out of reach most of the time. If there is anything that teachers need right now is time. We need to breathe, time to catch up, and time to at least try to get ahead. We have almost made it to Thanksgiving break, which will be a huge victory and provide us with some downtime. Thanksgiving is typically that much needed break during this time of year. This is a time we can spend catching up with family that we can only see a couple times a year. For many of us, that will not be an option this year, and that will only add to the emotional toll of the year, of the times. Many of us will spend at least part of this break thinking about school and trying to catch up. Life is stressful at school and at home, and the grind is definitely catching up to many of us. Please know we absolutely appreciate all the kind words of encouragement, meals, and random acts of kindness. I personally feel that the admin and board have our backs 100% during these tough times and are trying to support us in every way possible. To be honest, without all your support, I'm not sure some teachers would have made it to this point. I'm not looking for sympathy or trying to say our lives are any harder than most others right now, but I just want you all to hear from a teacher how we are feeling in the trenches right now. I wish you all a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Gilbert. The other one was from Lucas Boss. And he just says, as for me personally, in my house, we want to continue with the in-person learning as an option. We also want to continue with activities. We think we should continue to push through like we did in the fall and adjust as the situations arise. We already have the option to be remote and not participate if that's what parents choose. We think it is only equitable to, on the flip side, leave school and activities open for those who want to choose that option. Thanks for your endless time and effort on all this. Let's pray we are starting to have an end in sight with the vaccines start to be released. So those are just 2 letters from my staff, but again, I just think we're all on the page of staying in school as long as possible and as long as we can staff it and, not too many students are gone, then I think we just keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you.
I have just a general question about when they were talking about remote. Has there been an uptick in the amount of students / parents that have chosen to have their child go remote, or has it stayed pretty consistent through this school year so far, or is it?
Outside of the quarantining,
Yeah, outside the
just wanted to
quarantine.
clarify.
Yeah, thank you. Because the parents do have that option if they think it's, necessary. I just didn't know if from your point of view, if you've seen like an increase, a decrease,
I've had a few more increase, but I've had few come back too. So it's staying pretty steady for the amount that are remote, not due to quarantine at the high school.
At the middle school, we actually had more come back from the start of the year. We decided that remote wasn't what they thought it was gonna be. We've had a few who decided at this time of year to go remote also. But I think those kids will come back as soon as the winter's over too. I think they're finding out that it's a lot easier to be in school than to try to do everything at home and still actually try to be in school.
And the same thing for the elementary school. I mean, we started out, I think, with 39 students that were remote learners, and then we dropped down to about 24. And because of the uptick in COVID cases in Osage County, we've probably had about 5 more go strictly remote, only because of the health issues that they have at home. Not necessarily because of our students and because of them, but because of the health issues that they might have from a family member at home.
good deal.
I'd like to have Lisa speak to that if we could.
Lisa?
Could you kind of speak to the board just about the quarantining and kind of where the quarantines are mainly coming from and as far as in majority?
I'd like to answer Kat's question.
Go ahead.
The most staff members we've had out at one time was 10 staff members the week of November 13th. And I think that our staff should be commended for the shuffling that we did to fill those spaces with not many subs available. We did it within our buildings.
Does
That-
she need to come
this-
closer to these?
Yeah, staff, when we say staff, that's any employee, not, I'm assuming was that 10 teachers or 10?
That was including 2
Uh,
paras and 1 bus driver.
Yeah, so
And
That's total.
not necessarily all teachers at
Total
that time,
staff, okay.
yeah.
Thank you for that, Lisa.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just kind of talk how the fluctuation of people the quarantines and how that happens.
Okay, so, as of today, we have 85 total elementary, middle school, high school, and staff members quarantined. And it looks like a majority of those people, well, actually 26 of them are due to a positive household member. So not particularly the student, just a positive household member. And 28 of those quarantined are due to a household member being tested with symptoms. And let's see, 10 of those 86 are actually due to a positive student or staff member themselves. And it looks like we have 2 that are quarantined because they were refusing to have testing done, so they just mandated that 2-week quarantine. And one last week. So actually, that household members that have been quarantined due to a positive household member is actually 34 as of 2:30 p.m. today. mandated due to contact tracing is 26 staff members and students that are quarantined. Is that kind of
Yeah, that's good.
okay? And it looks like the past week we've held pretty steady at those numbers. Back on the 18th, the 17th, we were up to 111 students and staff members quarantined. So we've been actually holding pretty steady in the 80s to 100s for several weeks now that are quarantined.
What would be, what's the 85 out of how many total, like what's the staff and students?
861 total staff members and students on campus.
So, I mean, when I say the kids, when they get quarantined, they bounce back and forth, that's what causes stress, because you could have a kid here today and 3 kids gone tomorrow and 4 kids back, so that's when we say quarantine and bouncing back and forth, it's hard to keep track of all those kids and numbers and stuff, but so.
And I think, Mr. Hutton, I think what people don't understand, especially from the elementary standpoint, I think you guys go through it too. It's not just those kids going remote and then the teachers having to remote in with those students. It's having to copy off papers and then get packets ready because parents are requesting packets, or they have to have packets because, you know, in kindergarten, we're not providing them with the technology. I mean, it's just things like that that just add and add and add, and you get those ins and outs of remotes going and then they're coming back, but then you got others going remote. And so it's just really stressful for the faculty to keep track of all of those kids coming in and out and having to do all those copies and get prepared day in and day out. Considering that, you know, they're doing remote learning, they're doing packets, and they're doing on-site.
But I'd like to add that I would appreciate Jackie and working with us on the mask rule, because we wouldn't be in school right now without the mask rule, I can tell you that. I don't think we would be here because the number of quarantines would be a heck of a lot more on contact tracing than what we've had to deal with. And I wanna say the teachers have done a great job along with these guys, with the kids. The kids do a terrific job for the most part with their masks. In fact, when that rule changed, it even got better. I would have to say. So that's been a big help, and I want to thank you for helping us work through that piece of this deal, because that's made a huge positive impact, so.
Mrs. Paul, I have a question. When you said getting the packets ready, are our parents that have quarantined students, I guess appreciating the fact that maybe they need to give our teachers a span of time to be able to get those created, or respecting, I guess. Like one might be, it's like you're having a sick day for a couple of days, so you're gonna have to just catch up like a normal sick day and you can start remoting on day X.
I think most of them probably say that we'll have the packet in a couple of days, or we'll have the packet on a Monday, you know, but we try and work with the parents. I know that these guys do a really good job of contacting the parents, telling them when the packet's gonna be due or when it's gonna be ready to go. And I know the office does a really good job. I know Michelle and Jesse.
Yeah.
When a parent doesn't show up to pick up the packet and the teacher's wondering why didn't they pick up the packet? Multiple times they'll call throughout the week and say, hey, don't forget to pick up your packet. It
I was just
wasn't
wanting to make
available."
sure, I would think that hopefully the parents are showing some grace and
Right.
their expectation isn't up here when they need to just bring it down a notch and.
I haven't heard of anyone saying, I wish I had that packet yesterday. I have not heard of anybody saying that.
And just so our teachers know that they don't have to, I would hope that they don't feel like they have to stop immediately from what they're doing to prepare a packet for a student's mom's coming in an hour to get it.
Right, I can't say that they don't feel that, because I'm sure.
I bet they
do
feel it, and I just want them
They feel it, I know they feel it.
that it's okay.
Yeah.
I would say we would all agree, it's okay if they don't get their packet in 24, they're still probably graduate high school, like, it's okay. which is our goal.
I think that their expectations are, I'm teaching this lesson today, and if they don't get that
I
packet
think
today,
the one-
then they're going to already be behind a day. I think that that's probably where their anxiety sometimes comes,
Right.
From that.
Understood.
if that makes sense.
Kyle, is that who's over?
Kylie, are you going first or
Yeah, I think we're
or together or however you guys wanna go?
I was gonna introduce these guys because we had a faculty meeting last Wednesday, and I know that there was a lot of comments made about, gosh, I feel stressed, that kind of thing, and I just had told the faculty, I think you need to get some representatives together. I know we're having a board meeting on Monday. I said, get some representatives together and present to the board and talk to them about what your anxieties are, what your problems are right now, but not just gripe about it, but present them with some solutions, because that's really what they're looking for. So Kathy Reed, our title reading teacher, Kylie Baxter, our teacher in 2A, and Colleen Stuckey, our teacher in 2B, volunteered to be the representatives for the elementary school. So I wanna thank these ladies a lot
We
for
volunteered
doing
as
that.
tribute, yeah, that's for sure.
We do have Amy Parsons over there, that's a support staff over there, so thanks Amy for being here too.
Don't do that.
She just give
I
you
can
the whole
pass them
darn thing?
around.
There you go.
Happy job.
You did so good. Wait, go sit down.
I'll pick up this one.
I know we gave you guys a digital copy of this, but sometimes people like to have paper, so. Everybody touches all of them.
Yes.
I do have hands.
Okay, well, I first wanna start by thanking Mrs. Paul, because I feel like personally I can go and talk to her anytime, and she's heard from me quite often these past couple weeks. And then I also appreciate Mr. Hutton, that I can email him and that I feel like my voice can be heard. I'm sure Tony and Tim, you're cool people too, so we appreciate you. So, when Mrs. Paul asked people to be on a committee, I mean, elementary teachers love committees, so we were gung-ho to do this. So we created a Google form that was pushed out on Thursday to the staff, and then on Friday, we went over the results as a staff after school. And we prioritized two main goals that we would like the board's help with. The first one is to have a plan for when COVID numbers rise. I think right now some of the stress that is on us is the unknown. And I know the pandemic is full of unknowns, but like maybe having some sort of plan that we understand would get rid of some of those little unknowns. And we'll talk more about that here in a second. And then goal number 2 would be to find a way to build in more time for teachers. So the first 2 slides show the extra duties that have been added to our plates since the start of the school year. And we understand that this is an exceptional year and that of course things would change. And I think we all thought things would get more manageable when we went on with our year. Unfortunately, things just continue to change and we have to continue to adapt and adapt. The great thing and the bad thing about teachers is that if they have a lot on their plate, they just feel like if they put in more time, more hours, if they work harder, it's going to get easier. And honestly, in a normal year, that would happen. Your first couple months of school, you're gonna be putting in more time and work harder because you're adapting for your new class, and then you're gonna set a routine and then you'll be okay. However, this year, we're not able to keep afloat. It's just always changing, so. So Kylie Baxter is gonna go over the survey results that we have for you. And I hope you look at these with an open heart. Please look at these results as concerns and not just as complaints. For the majority of us in the elementary, we're mentally and physically tired. Okay, so I just wanna say thank you again. Like Mrs. Paul said, she asked if anybody wanted to be in charge of this, and I felt like the most constructive way to do this was to do a Google form, make it anonymous so people could really be honest about how they were feeling. It also gives every single person an opportunity to voice their opinion and have their voice be heard, because there is a lot of times as teachers, we just plug away and we just keep going, and sometimes a lot of people don't feel comfortable speaking up. So this form that we created, out of 32 teachers, we did classroom teachers, SPED and title teachers, and specialty teachers. So, we did, out of 32, 30 replied, which is pretty darn good. And then, so, one of the main reasons that we were this kind of got brought up was because of the staff meeting, we were talking about how, you know, if you're having a hard time, you should just take a day off. You know, you should really try to give yourself a mental break. But it's really hard to take off when 73% of the staff feels like they can't take off because they're going to put somebody else out. I know when my son was getting COVID tested, thank goodness I work with Kate and Colleen, because they stepped in and helped. I had a substitute, but she had to leave to drive a bus, so then Kate stepped in. Luckily, she has an intern. Her intern was able to cover for a few minutes while Kate was in my room, and they shuffled, and it worked great. But I was sitting at home feeling absolutely terrible, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I think, obviously, I am not the only one who feels this way. And we know there's not a lot that can be done about getting subs, but this is something that it's hard to take a mental health day if you feel like you can't take a mental health day. A lot of other professions, you would be able to take a day off whenever you're feeling like you need to. This is something where you have to work really hard to be able to be gone. So if you want to see some comments and concerns and questions, you can look at page 1 and 2. Those comments go with that chart. And then this is on a scale of 0 to 5 plus of outside your contract time, how much you're preparing for the week. I would say that 5 plus is pretty darn accurate. Over 50% of our teachers say they're working outside their contract hour. I personally am super proud of people who can get it done under that, because I need to learn from them a little bit more. And if you want to see some comments on that, and if you think about it, 5 plus hours, that's staying till 4:30 every night. I feel like personally, I don't leave until after 4:30 almost every single night, so COVID or not. So. And I think too, when we talk to staff members about it, it's like closer to 10 hours. A lot of teachers come in on the weekends or take things home to prepare for remote learners and in-class learners.
So if you wanna see comments, questions, concerns about that, you can flip to page 3 and 4 of your comments page. We didn't feel like it was appropriate to put all of our comments up here. We felt like that was something you guys could read on your own. So how much instructional time, on an average, do you feel like you have lost per day due to COVID-related procedures, getting remote learners ready, gathering remote items, et cetera? This would include stopping to help little Johnny on the tablet, tell him where something's located, have him share his screen, then have their mom or dad come and talk to you on their screen as well. This is probably something that middle school and high school teachers don't have to deal with. Their parents are probably not coming on to tell you like just something important.
I have a feeling it's not always important.
So, you know, that kind of thing, when you're helping these kids that are online, the kids that are sitting in the chairs in your classroom just have to wait. And then vice versa. When I'm helping the kids when we're helping the kids around the classroom, the kids on the tablet sometimes have to wait. And we understand that is just something that goes along with this, but it does take a lot out of your day in covering things that need to be covered. And once again, thank goodness, second graders don't have to take the state assessments. But I think those older grade levels feel pressure to get a lot of that content in before they have to take state assessments.
And then I was gonna add too, I feel like since we were not in person in the spring, we have that extra pressure of like, oh my gosh, we need to make up these skills and the second grade skill or whatever grade level you're in. So that just adds a little bit more to it. You're already behind and now things are taking so much longer throughout the day. And you're explaining more things remotely for students. And then your in-class kids kind of have to wait, and like I'm a time-efficient person, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not even to unit 3 yet, and we should be type thing. So I know we need to give ourselves some grace with that, and that we understand that, but that is another pressure that we have.
Okay, so then there was a lot of buzz around the school, around the community of, oh my gosh, are we gonna go remote before Christmas break? I can't tell you how many times we heard that, so we just decided to put it on the survey because we decided that we were kind of tired of the buzz. We would rather just lay it out there rather than people talking amongst themselves. So we put it out there and it's pretty darn close that 53% would be no, they don't wanna go remote at all. And 46.7% think, yeah, it might not be a terrible idea. Once again, we are just the messengers. We're just sharing this information. There are no comments that go with that one. Yes,
Can I
sir.
ask a real quick question?
Yes.
Colleen?
Yeah.
I think you said in there that we're already behind, so how long is it gonna take us to catch up from the spring? And if we go remote again, how much further are we gonna be behind?
Okay, so that's a good question. So, I did go to a great conference this summer where they talked about, how do you help students catch up? And basically, they used the reference of Hurricane Katrina. And what the teachers did during Hurricane Katrina was wherever, like for example, second graders, wherever first graders left off in the spring, they would start teaching that when they came in the fall for the next school year. And that was not effective at all. And so basically what Melissa Fast told us to do was, for example, when you start math, you just look at the skills for that unit and you kind of test the kids on where they're at. So for example, money. Our kiddos coming into second grade were not as skilled with that as they normally would be. So then we took 2 days away from our math unit and we just worked on those math skills that they missed in first grade. And so then other skills that they already had from first grade and maybe they were lacking just a little bit, then with our second grade curriculum, we were able to pick those up. The other thing I wanted to point out, when we have like a hiccup in our teaching due to students missing something in the spring, then I have to think to myself, oh my gosh, my remote kids don't have the materials they need. So basically what we've been doing in second grade, we make a note of it and then we prepare for the following week to pick up on that skill. And I'll just add something too. I personally don't think for first and second graders having everything online is appropriate. The kiddos coming in this year to second grade, probably half of them had letter reversals. Their pencil grip strength was not quite there. And really, I think it is because in the spring, everything was online. So, a couple of people have said, well, just put everything online. And I personally can't do that because we need to know how to write our B's and D's the right way. We need to be able to write our name correctly type thing.
So to follow up with what Jay was saying, so if we did go all remote, it obviously wouldn't look like what happened in spring. I
Oh,
think
no, yeah.
everybody agrees,
And we,
right?
yeah, for sure, and we prepared our kids because, when I have kiddos go in and out for quarantine, they think it's like springtime and they're like, this is my cat, this is my dog. They think it's like show and tell time type of thing, and I'm like, we still gotta follow a schedule. So I think after the first month and we really just like work that routine into our kids, they understand that like, if you were at home, you follow the same schedule that we're asking you to.
And then your kids that are currently in the classroom see that behavior, I'm assuming with the remote kids,
Yeah, I like
kind, to some degree,
Yeah, I turn my Chrome pad most
so they know.
Most of us wear headphones. I can't speak for everyone, but most of us wear headphones, so then we can hear what the kids at home are saying, but the class can't. But
So it's not a constant.
when we want them to participate, we'll say, oh, Colleen just said da 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 da. And sometimes if it's like a downtime, I'll turn my headphones off, but usually the kids do not interact because we don't know if that's, we've never been told whether that's really kind of appropriate or not. So
I was just curious.
I just usually have them facing me the whole time and
I just wondered if the kids kind of knew the expectation going into a quarantine.
No, they do,
They
and
have to be more.
yeah, and it's really funny because they think that like if they're quarantined, that they're like, oh, I have more time to
Trust
play.
me, Brady has been begging.
I know,
Trust me, Mr. Raymond, he's not going.
So,
He might change his mind once he went and had to come back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Exactly.
and the kids have said that too. They're like, I really miss my friends, type thing.
Right.
Like I know in my classroom for instruction, they're always facing me, but if it's like a group activity, then I will have them work in a small group type thing. That gets more complicated though when you have, like I started the year with 4 remote learners. and I had a high, a middle, and like 2 lows. So you can't really group them together. So then it was just kind of like, I'll see you for 10 minutes, I'll see you for 10 minutes, just trying to figure out a schedule that worked. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think you guys have established that going remote is not the answer. So something else that maybe teachers thought about was, Gilbert's email, Colleen, and talking on her little speech there. Most of the people on this slide would be okay if we had to possibly add a few days into our calendar somewhere, some way that we could make up some kind of time to give us time to prepare. So this, I put that little green line in there because the yes is for 1 to 2 days. That's not a big deal if we have to go an extra couple of days. 2 to 3 days, it'd be okay. So the red and the blue are people who would be okay adding some days in there. This is just elementary, by the way. And then some people are like, heck no, get me out of here when I'm supposed to. So, once again, just the messengers.
Oh, I thought you were gonna give us your answers. I'm just kidding.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
My answers are in here. So that is, I think there's a way to maybe be creative and this wouldn't have to be like, you get 1 day to prepare for the month and we're gonna put it on the end. I think it could be several hours here, couple hours here and there. I know we lost some of those half days, when we were shuffling schedules around. We don't know the answers of how to be creative. There's lots of ideas on here that could get people's, juices going there. I thought this was a pretty powerful slide. We asked the staff to describe this school year in 1 word. And I took all of the words that everybody sent in, because there wasn't a good graph for this, but I put them all into something called a Wordle. And so the more times you type something, the bigger it gets. So if it's a really small word, that might be something that someone is feeling. A few people here and there, but these big words right here, those were the ones that were the most. That's how like a word art does, or how it works. You put it in, the more times you type it, the bigger it gets. So this to me was pretty powerful of how teachers are feeling, which I'm sure people all over the world are feeling this way as well. But not everyone in everyone's profession is in charge of children and their education as well.
Hey Kylie, can I take you back a slide?
Yep.
Okay, so I know you said that in the comments, people had all sorts of ideas,
Oh.
and I agree, like, I was amazed at the creativity that came out on these comments throughout the questions. And so I think that's something as a school board that we should talk about, and administrators, of what could we possibly do to help them out from a mental health perspective. I don't know if you guys wanna talk about that now, or if you wanna wait to get through the presentation, so you guys don't have to stand there the whole time, basically.
If I think maybe I can add some clarification to that. So we have about 7 days. We have to have 1,116 hours.
Right.
Okay, so that gives us, right now, we have about 7 days to work with, and that would include any day we missed. So you could spread that out however you want to. You never know if you're gonna need them actually for weather days, so that adds you could spread those out evenly and give some time. The problem is, what if I have that 3-day snowstorm?
Yeah.
That's what adds the complexity to the whole problem. I don't think anybody in here probably has any problem with us using all of our snow days to do this type of thing. It's how do you plan those out? Which you can gamble. And when they say go extra days, that would mean you used all your snow days up and you didn't get to 1,116 hours. So whatever you don't have, you have to go extra to get to that.
So it'd be tacked on to the end of the.
Yes,
Correct?
am I on the right track with you guys?
That's, I think, what people, that was kind of.
elementary.
In the elementary, this is just
So we don't wanna,
elementary, we
like-
cannot speak for anybody else.
So,
If those people wanna speak, they can come.
I think if that's something, I think definitely we send out a survey and ask type thing. I don't think we wanna make any decisions like this
But
committee does.
as far as what you're saying, go a couple extra days, you're
Yeah.
talking, okay, we used all of our allotted time,
Yes.
so
In
now we have to
addition
go, we're under the 1,116 hours, so we may have to add 2 days to get there.
I think this graph to me shows that people would rather have a few mental health times in here, not necessarily like a day off to like go to the spa, but like a day off to prepare and get ready, so then I don't have to work on the weekend. And to me, this shows like right now is a little bit more important than adding like an extra day in May or something like that. Like we need time to prepare now rather than getting, off early in the spring.
And I don't even think the teachers are even asking for a full day
No.
every week or every month, that kind of thing. I mean, I think that they would get a lot out of a couple of hours on a Friday afternoon kind
That's
of
what,
thing.
yeah.
I mean, a lot.
Do we have any issues with like contract time? Basically, what the school day has to be, if we end up saying, providing them, let's say, an extra 15 minutes at the end of the day, that's.
It's the start and stop time are negotiated, they're in the negotiated agreement. 7:45 to 3:40,
340.
yeah,
So we would have to work within that allotted time.
yeah.
From our in-service days we have on the calendar right now, we tried to book a lot of those on the holidays that are on the calendar. I mean, my worry for the parent side is we have a lot of people in our city that get paid by the hour. So if we're taking 7 days away from the kids at school, is that taking 7 days worth of work away from them? Because now they're taking off work. So I mean, I see the
That's the
mental
whole-
health side you guys are talking about, but on the 700 and some kids,
That's why I think
who's
if you
watching
take
those kids?
an hour on a Friday or an hour and a half on a Friday afternoon, and that would allow them to get prepared for the next week. An hour and a half, I think our parents can work with us on an hour and a half versus a whole day. I mean, I don't think we would want a whole day off either, honestly, in that case, because that would mean kids wouldn't get breakfast, they wouldn't get lunch, that kind of thing, especially right before a weekend. But I do think that an hour and a half to 2 hours on a Friday afternoon would be very beneficial to our staff. Not just the mental health part of it, but they're able to get prepared and then possibly not have to come in over the weekend, can't promise that, but
Well, an official half day, is that what time?
There's a misconception that you get a day in, that only happens on weather days. Like, that's one of the reasons I wanted to put in the late start. If you come in on a late start, that counts as a full day and you count all your hours. Whatever hours we miss, that's what hours we miss. So it's not really days, it's hours. Does that answer that?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
one school, so if since we're talking about time right now, and that was obviously the general theme, I think that would help a lot across the board to help these words make them smaller. A big things that caught my eye as something that makes sense would be that end of Friday, that Friday, maybe every other Friday for an hour and a half. If you do that across, every other Friday for 2 months, that's 8 hours, so that's 1 snow day. 2
There's
hours.
there's 6.75 hours in one of our days.
Okay, so I did that wrong. I'm thinking, I didn't know how many hours were in my days, but meaning, I guess,
Well,
yes,
yeah.
could
It would
we,
take a
if we
while to
did,
add up to 7.
if we do an hour and a half across, 4 times, that's 7 hours, or however we do it. Would an hour and a half every other week on a Friday do wonders for overall mental health?
I think teachers are happy with 15 minutes here. I mean, I think an hour and a half would be amazing.
And I guess.
Once again, can't speak for everyone. This
Yeah,
would be
and
something that we feel like you would need to.
And here's the deal, like middle school and high school, they're not making packets, they're pushing everything out online. And so honestly, like when I talked to my husband about it, until I told him exactly what we had to do, he was like, oh, that makes more sense than just like, he's like, you just push it out. I'm like, no, they're second.
So to follow up on that, since we're talking about the subject, is it okay if I keep asking? I was shocked at the amount of copying time needed. Just because I'm not aware of all the need, the time to make copies. It seemed like any help with copies would be appreciated. I know we've kind of taken a hard stance without not having volunteers and people come into the schools right now because of what we're dealing with. But with something to where we had, 10 parent volunteers, 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the afternoon all week long, just to be like, here's the work order from the second grade teachers of copies that I need made and made. Could that be an helpful extreme? Like, I know I personally would be happy to come in and volunteer for an hour to make copies if it would help you all out. I just don't know if that's a reasonable request.
That is something you would need to ask.
I mean, is it?
I feel like we can't answer these questions.
I just think, it just sounds like that would be a huge,
From my point of view, this is my very personal point of view, I have had teachers' aides in the past, and I've had student teachers in the past, and I have to make the pile, and I have to write down, make this many copies stapled front and back, I have to give them lots of instructions, and a lot of times they come back not correct, and I have to end up doing them anyway.
I like to think I'm a
Yeah, you
copy
might-
aficionado.
I mean,
myself.
I'm not saying that I couldn't give better instructions, but it still is, I can't speak for everyone. I know there are lots of older grades who would love to have that. But I think this would be an important question to ask the staff if that's something that they would want.
And maybe even kindergarten, since they have all those binders to make for any kid that's quarantined.
It just seemed like there was a lot of copying.
Well, and honestly, we call it the Thursday night crew. So you have to get your remote packet ready Friday, to go out on Friday. So there were several of us that every Thursday night, we would just be lined up at the copy machine and be talking about making all of our remote packets type thing. So, I think if we took it to the staff, then they would let us know.
So I'm hoping I don't get shot for saying this, mainly from this guy next to me on the
Okay.
right. But now that we have a full staff back in, if somehow they created a sub list and the teachers knew there was subs available, would that be something where they could take a discretionary day on a short notice?
I think, yeah. I mean, cause honestly, taking a day off, you have to write sub plans, which is kind of a pain, but you can do it type thing. Now this year you're making sub plans and you have to make sub plans for your remote learner. And luckily, thank goodness we have awesome subs because they went through the training and they're doing such a great job. And so, yeah, I think if we just had some more I don't know how to use subs. Come to an
I mean, the
elementary
key there
school.
is that we have a full staff now, so that means there's no subs getting used. So
Yeah, well, and
how many are
honestly,
available? Can we get 4 or 5 to come in and get 4 or 5 teachers a day? I'll take
That
advantage
full
of
staff, I
It's
was
just the
speaking
high
for the
school.
high school.
Oh, okay.
And that's only been the last 3 days.
Hey, but it's a
Yeah.
It's a
trend.
victory.
That's a win.
and honestly, that added more stress because you would find out that morning someone was quarantined. Well, they're in charge of a small group that they take from your room. So then you're like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do with these 3 kids? And you just make do with what you can, and I get that, but also some of the support staff helps students who are on IEPs or even our students that are performing at a higher level. And so then when those are being pulled, then you're not meeting their needs as well as you could. But we understand and we make do with what we can, but.
Would you like me to go to the next slide?
I'm sorry, I thought that was a slide.
So I like this slide a little bit because there's gotta be a positive that comes out of something like this. So I think that on page 8 through 10, you can read some things that people have said about becoming a better teacher this year. So I read through some of them and all the staff got a chance to read through all the answers because it does provide perspective when you get to see what other people are saying. And you might think to yourself, well, I guess it might not be that bad, or oh my gosh, they're feeling the exact same way as I am, or you don't feel so alone. And I do think that that's what a really big part of us coming in tonight is sometimes when you just tell somebody how you feel, you write it down, you get it out there, sometimes you just feel better. And so we're here to speak on behalf of our staff, but a lot of times we're here to speak on behalf of people who are too afraid to speak up or just are more soft-spoken. Are you done? Or what's going on? You're leaving me up your eyes off. So we, on page 11 through 13, there's lots of ideas for you. We don't necessarily agree with them all. We don't think they're all terrible. These are ideas that you can look at. And then there were lots of questions for you. I saw several times that lots of staff has invited you in to just see kind of exactly what we are doing all day long. So feel free to come in. But like we said, our two main concerns, which we've talked about, is that how can we gain more time? And then what is the actual plan? For what's the number of students out? What's the number of staff and teachers out? What's the number of districts and or buildings or whatever? I think knowing solid numbers, or at least, I just think it's gonna put a lot of people's minds at ease. And we understand that you might not have those answers, but we're bringing you what people want us to bring you.
Now, you know, people have been talking about 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, numbers may possibly go up. 2 weeks after winter break, numbers may possibly go up. And I just wanted to talk for a little bit about the staff members who are kind of worried about coming to school when numbers start rising. We have staff members with new babies. We have staff members that live with people with health issues. And so it's just always in the back of your mind, you know, like then you see on the news that the hospitals are almost to max capacity, and it's just, you know, or you hear about a teacher who's in the ICU. I mean, that just kind of just adds a little bit more. And then I had a couple of staff members come and talk to me that this year is really taking a toll on just health for staff in general. We've had some teachers that have had to go on anxiety medicine, or having panic attacks, or chronic headaches, losing sleep at night. And we understand everyone is going through it, and we totally get that. But every day we go to school and we have a smile on our face and we're so excited that our kids are here, and we have to comfort them too because they're scared sometimes, you know, for a grade in our school. They had a positive case, and just seeing like the amount of students who were sick that week or felt like they were sick, that took a toll on the environment in the classroom for that week too. And, you know, I know Mrs. Keefe did a lesson on it, and I'm sure she'll continue to, but these are all things that are happening, and it's just a lot. So, but we understand everyone is going through it and everyone handles it in different ways, but we very much appreciate that we were able to come in and share with you elementary life 2020. So, okay.
Well, thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
For putting together.
Mike, you have anything? Board? And we're gonna discuss those whole board, but I guess I'm asking if you guys wanna say anything, we'll kind of go in turn here.
Well, I have kind of an inside track on the classroom and how difficult the classroom planning is, and the time management and all that stuff too. So, I mean, I would like to try to figure out something that we can do for all staff, whether it's in the classroom, trying to give them some extra time on a week or bi-weekly basis. I mean, I've even, and I'll throw this out there too, some type of, you know, extra compensation, you know, bonus. I mean, this is a very different year, and everyone in this building, or all three buildings, has worked exceptionally well. And I think we need to not just acknowledge it, you know, verbally, but I mean, to me, I would not be opposed to giving some sort of Christmas bonus type of thing, you know, that we could work out. And I know that's gonna maybe make some people a little uneasy, but you know, you look at like $500 times 100 people, that's $50,000 out of a $10 million budget. To me, that's.
Bonus money's not gonna fix the problem that they're having.
And I know it's not gonna fix it, but at least we're acknowledging that, hey, thank you for what you're doing. You know, not just a pop or a meal, but hey, you know, we appreciate everything that you're doing. Put this towards, you know, something that you really, really want, so, I don't know.
Mr. Williams.
Tough one, I know they're going through a lot, and I appreciate their things that they are doing. I know it's worldwide. I think there's an answer, you know, a day off for some spreads tension on families trying to make up, especially at the elementary level, that's the tough one. You know, the older kids, you can spend time by themselves at home, or you go through the curriculum online. I know the elementary school is a tough one, because then people that are needing work have to take time off to be with the kids and follow through. So, you know, sadly, at the elementary level, it's the amount of passing the stress from one entity to the next. What the answer is, it may be a longer school year for elementary school versus the others. I don't know what it is. We've got to look at a lot of different ideas. You know, I don't think anybody worldwide even has the answer, so we're all playing it through. We've got to look at it in a logical, what makes sense for each one. You know, if we need a little time for mental health, my concern is a few hours here, a few hours there, does that help relieve the stress? You know, we get through the holiday season where we've got a lot of time off, does that relieve the stress? I don't know, you know. Sadly, I didn't get this until this morning, I've been on the road all day to review the comments and what have you. I just know, you know, things people talking about. I don't know, you know, I do not believe that, you know, an hour or two is going to really keep the stress when we've got this kind of workload going on. By the same token, the work has to be done, the kids have to learn, you know, balancing the stress between family and the teachers. If there's a clear answer, we'll just have to wait through it. That's my thoughts.
Mrs. Bellinger.
So first I wanna thank the elementary staff back there, I can't see everyone, but just for, you know, taking the ownership and putting the questionnaire out there, putting it all together, presenting. I mean, just having these ideas for us to talk through is imperative, because I really think from a mental health perspective, we need to address it. And in my opinion, we need to address it now. I don't think we have to make a fix for the whole rest of the year. You know, why can't we do something for them now, and maybe that gets us through January? You know, we can have another board meeting, we have scheduled board meetings to figure out, do we change it from there? You know, and is there an impact to snow days or whatever it is? But I feel we need to do something now, and they're asking for help, in my opinion. So I would like to do something, and I think there's so much creativity. You know, I also heard from some other teachers that, hey, you know, maybe it's not taking every other Friday, you know, half a day. Is there some way to, and again, brainstorming, right? Could we put students in the auditorium, and then, you know, part of the school gets 2 hours, and then those kids come back, and then we take the other kids and put them in the cafeteria, and they watch, you know, a 2-hour movie or a presenter, and then those teachers get that break. You know, is there something that even maybe the students don't physically go somewhere, but we can still shift, you know, the workload around to give some teachers a break? But there's more ideas out there, but maybe it's just helping them through December and take, you know, every other Friday, half a day or 2-hour break. Something, I wanna do something.
Which doesn't cause the stress on the parents. I think you can't do a lot too short notice as far as
Right.
letting days out or even letting the kids out early without a notice with the, you know, large population working hour per hour.
Right.
We can't just say, you know, starting next week, every Friday you're off at 1. I just don't think it's feasible for the parent situation for all parents. So I think doing something even creative that direction makes a lot of sense. Sorry, I interrupted your
No, but, no, you're fine. So I wanted to have more discussion on what could we do, you know, in the interim. We can always change it as we go, or maybe more ideas will pop up from the staff as they go through it.
Mr. Johnson.
Well, I did walk in late, so I didn't get the full presentation. From what I understood, we're looking at wanting some mental health time, is that correct? Is that what the main focus of this was. Like Dave, I was on the road today, so I didn't get a chance to review all this. But I agree with Kat, you know, maybe there's something we can do now, but it doesn't have to be something that's, you know, like Kelly was saying, you know, something that, okay, we're gonna do this from here on out through the whole school year. Because this is gonna change. We don't know with this COVID thing if it's gonna increase, decrease, you know, nobody can predict that at this point. And there will be chances to make adjustments later on with when we get together and have meetings. What we should do, I don't know, but it's a good question, the $1 million question maybe here. Yeah, I think it'd be great if we could help them make their situation better. I think we keep in mind, you know, what's best for the students, we've always done that here. And, but we can't, it's something where we can't really afford to have, you know, lose teachers either, you know, it's all a complex intertwined system. It's, I don't think we can consider just one part of it. What the answer to this, I don't know, that's a good question. That's not work.
All right, I wanna thank the teachers again. Thank you for doing the survey and sharing the results. I wrote a few notes as I was walking through some of the details of the deck. I think initially, I want everyone to know that some of the commentary made me think that maybe the teachers didn't know how much the board does appreciate them. So I just wanna level set it out that I'm sorry that you do feel that way, and we apologize if it has ever come across that way, but I can stand with all the board that we do appreciate everything that you're going through. We understand it's hard. We know it's hard. Our jobs have changed as well. But we'll never feel the pain that you're feeling because we do a different job. So we can't fully empathize because we aren't doing your job. But I can say, with 3 of our board members, spouses in teaching positions, one was a teacher, we've all, you know, we all have kids in school, and we can definitely want to share to all the teachers listening that are here that we do appreciate you and want to prepare and help cultivate an environment where you aren't feeling all these scary words and actually have strong mental health. Clearly change is hard. It's okay. Everything will be okay if everything's not perfect. I just wanna reiterate that. It's not gonna be perfect. You're not gonna be able to be perfect, especially in this time. We're all dealing with change. We all have to adapt. Everybody is, and all there is building characters. It's teaching our kids things that we never imagined we'd teach them. So we appreciate that. We wanna help alleviate the stress. Understanding what some of the exact stressors are, I think will be helpful. I think it's gonna help us figure out ways and creative ways to help you. I don't believe, because I listened to my county health nurse at the county commission meeting last week, that, and from everything that I'm seeing, that COVID isn't being transmitted at school. So going remote doesn't stop the spread. It actually could make it even worse because kids are less controlled and not in a controlled environment. So that's, and one of the reasons I know I'm not in favor of going full remote unless we have to. I don't think we'll have a plan. So I think the request for the elementary teachers, I don't think there's an exact time or percentage of students that would cause us to do that. I think it's when we physically are not able to house students and teach, and if you disagree. I don't think we'll answer that question. I just wanted to put that out there. I also think money is nice, but it's short term. It's a nice but then you're still just as stressed out and you're still just as, you know, it's still just chaotic. I mean, I think we've all probably had moments in our career where you've gotten a little bit, then you're still stressed out. So, not that I don't agree that it's deserved, that's my opinion. And then the common thing was time. Time. We need a little more time, we need more time. And time, I think, just to be able to prepare for time with the students. So I think there are a couple of great ideas about, I think right now it sounds like only like half the kids go to art and computers in elementary school. Maybe have those teachers come to the classroom so they can teach the whole class at once, giving the teachers, more time during that. I think there were some really good ideas, and obviously we'll get into all of that when we get there, but those were my notes, so I have spoken a long time, sorry.
Thank you. To reiterate what Kelly just said, the safest place for the kids is definitely here at the school. I personally hear you guys, and I think all of us hear you, and we wanna help any way we can. It's just making it where it works for everybody. I think we need to definitely look into taking advantage of some subs and getting some discretionary days in there for you. Time off, or half days or what have you, yes, we can look at all that. I mean, I think everything should be on the table. And I would guess we're gonna have that conversation here real shortly, so. But I would think we wanna we gotta figure out how to make it work for everybody. The bonus money deal, I'm not so sure that would work. I mean, we're talking taxpayer money. That's hard to sell a taxpayer that we're gonna get more money away because it's a negotiated contracts and all that. So you got a lot of stuff there you gotta worry about. But some of the other stuff we can't work on, the time off. And that's something I think we should start looking at. And Troy, I'm sure you've already put some ideas together, so I'm gonna turn it to you and let's start talking about some ideas, how we can get these guys some relief.
Well, first of all, certain ideas are gonna work in one building, but not another building. I mean, our buildings, while we're under one roof, are so different. The middle school is completely different than the high school, and obviously the elementary is a completely different beast, so. I think some of the ideas on a Friday afternoon, there's certain ways that we could pull some kids on Fridays and help using the auditorium. Now, that means we have to shift some other classes probably out of the auditorium.
Yep.
We can do some things like that. I know one of the teachers mentioned to Mr. Heward today that having a roving sub would work really good in the high school. I don't know that a roving sub works very well in the elementary school, just because of the complexities of the things that they have to do. Now, I might be wrong about that. If we can figure out a way to help hire subs and make that work, and some of our subs are so good that they probably can do that. If it's just getting them when they're not actually having a sub and having enough. So I think there's some good ideas there. Some kind of a hybrid thing in the middle. The middle school's kind of stuck in the middle, so some of those elementary concepts might work. Some of them don't work as well. So there's some ideas. We can use, we can use some snow day time to get some time also. We just gotta be cognitive of the fact that we may need those days for actual weather days. You just never know. So I'm okay with using some of that time as long as everybody else
Are
is.
those guys still over there?
Yeah.
I can't see them, so I hate talking when I can't see somebody.
They all.
We're socially distancing.
So with the Thanksgiving break coming up and the Christmas break coming up, do you need more time involved in there, or do we need to be looking at this for January? Do we need to be looking at immediate? I mean, you guys help me here, cause I know we got 3 or 4 days coming up now.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna have however many days. Is there time that you need before that, after that?
I mean,
What's the time frame?
honestly, for second grade, we kind of busted out a whole bunch, like the whole month of December last week. We just stayed late and just got it all done, just because we knew that you never know day to day what's gonna happen with kids coming in and out. But I think that's definitely something we can ask the staff how they would feel about that. I don't know if because it's 3 weeks, right, from there to there. I don't know if that would be necessary. I definitely see in January and February when we have less breaks. Does that make sense? right now we have Thanksgiving and we have Christmas, but January and February, those are long months because we don't have as many breaks.
And it gives us time to get with high school, middle school, and see if we, I mean, one size is not gonna fit all, we know that,
For
but
sure, yeah.
to get a plan together, we don't have to make that plan tonight if we know that there's time built in now.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my question, I guess.
But there's probably, I would say, based on what I read,
I mean,
there's probably some.
I don't
Yeah,
think there's a
some
teacher in the
immediate-
world that will not take more
True.
time
Yeah.
to prepare while they're also getting paid for it, not on their own time.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I would say that most teachers want to get all their work done on their contract time and not work outside of it.
Yeah.
So I think being creative, it'd have to keep the students in school between now and the
And
end of the year.
honestly, like, we have Wacky Wednesday right now, which is so helpful because then we're able to meet as a grade level, but then we're also able to meet with title services and sped services. And honestly, because of the lack of subs or lack of staff or staff being out, that got canceled. So then it's kind of like, oh, you count on that, and then, you know, that got taken away type thing. So I know Mrs. Paul tries as hard as she can to provide that for us, it just doesn't work out all the time this year, so.
One other thing before we go too far. Jackie, since several people have called you out tonight, maybe you ought to give us your opinion on all this stuff while we're talking.
I agree with the statement that kids are safer in school. Of all the places that masks are showing us that it works in our county, it's schools. And that's because schools are doing such a good job of enforcing it. Masks work, the thing is it's really hard to force a person to wear a mask, and for both people to wear it is the most effective. That's why we did the exemption. And it's not, I mean, that's definitely in our county, and I can speak to that because I have that data and we see that because we talk to everybody personally. But I know it's the same in other counties, including Shawnee. They're seeing the same thing. And they did a little study where they looked at the number spikes and if they correlated with anything that had to do with the schools. Like when schools went back into session, was there a spike? There was not. Was there a spike when sports started back up? There was not. And so they weren't able to make a correlation between school activities and increases in total cases, just with those numbers. So because of that, I do agree that the kids do better in school for various reasons. And we're not seeing the transmission in the schools. Yes, we have people out, but it's not because they're getting it in the school or even because they're needing to quarantine because they were in school with somebody who was positive. That's happening outside of the school. I can count on one hand the number of transmissions that we can definitely epi-link to a school transmission. And we actually have, we know that's where they got it. Otherwise, we can't. I can't say for sure that they didn't, but there's not evidence that they did when we do the contact tracing. So, and the reason I say that is because when the kids are quarantined, they don't wind up positive unless they're household contact. So when we started this out before we did the mask exemption, schools still were doing the masks when they started back up. You guys have done that since the beginning. And so when we started out, we were quarantining everybody regardless of the mask thing. And the kids didn't get sick, and neither did the staff. So we're quarantining all these people for no reason is what I'm getting at. And so doing the mask exemption has helped a lot with us to try and keep our schools in session. I understand that if you have people out because of quarantines and isolations, that there may come a time that you'll have to go remote simply because you don't have staff enough to teach or people enough in class to teach. And that's completely different. But that doesn't have anything to do specifically with whether or not you're safe in a school. the transmission, the data is not showing that there is evidence that there's transmission significant that's in our schools. So that's where I'm coming from. And if you have questions or anything, you're always welcome to ask, you can call us, we're doing the best we can. And I just will also support our teachers, we, in healthcare, let me tell you, public health in particular, we feel your pain, it is nonstop. And I can't imagine what you guys are going through. So, you know, we very much appreciate everything you're doing for our community, and we appreciate any support that you throw our way as well. So we definitely, this is unprecedented, and it's a virus we can't stop, it's a virus we can't control. The best we can do is the best we can do, and that's implementing the mitigation procedures that we have put in place. So I just wanna commend everybody for hanging in there, and hopefully, once we get a vaccine out, that will help to slow this down even more, to where we can try and get back to a little bit something more normal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On that topic with Jackie, I don't think we can thank them enough, but to the staff, also to any parents listening, thank you. Thank your students for making sure they stay masked up and doing everything they can to keep us in school. And I mean, I just appreciate it, and I think everybody here does too.
Sitting here thinking about a few things that we talked about. I know the technology staff is overloaded too, but are there some answers in planning times and what have you that would aid the teachers, you know? I've heard several times about the copying being needed, you know, is it such a thing that some of that can be relieved by a few more copying machines, you know, lesson planning that they can email out as opposed to having to put together packets, you know, some things like that, just throwing some things out there that maybe people can answer that question, maybe they've tried it and didn't work, I don't know.
Now, we have two paraeducators, USD 420 paraeducators in the elementary school that man the care room, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and then they switch off in the preschool room. And that's part of their job in the morning or in the afternoon is to make copies. Now, do teachers give them those copies? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And a large part of that is what Kylie said, because our teachers know exactly how they want the copy and they can put it on there, and sometimes it gets done right and sometimes it does not get done right. I'm not saying that about our paraeducators, but I'm just saying that does happen.
I understand that from, you know, employee people. Sometimes it's easier to just go ahead and do that
Right.
yourself. And then you know 100% it's laid out the way
Done
it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, my question to that, is there, I'm assuming from what I've heard there's multiple teachers and possibly fit in that same slot. You know, would more copying machines aid that, or where people can get that done quicker? Or work together, you know, like those packets, be able to put them in an email form so they can digitally put that out? I don't know, it's just a question I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't think really more copy machines is the issue.
Okay.
It's the time.
The thing, I'm gonna jump up here. One of the things that, the copy machine is not the issue, time is the issue. When you have people who are trying to prepare, social distance. When you have people who are trying to prepare, everybody's planning and planning and planning. It just so happens that they're to the active stage of putting those plans into packets or student materials, so that comes about. It's the planning that's going to get yourself worn out in time. That's the big one. It's just that everybody happens to be reaching that active goal at the same time to the copy machine.
Yeah, but just my question was whether there's things that technology can help with that time was my thought.
If I remember right, now, my memory's not real great, so. But I believe we put in something to pay these guys for working during their planning time.
Right.
Do we need to take and say, no, we're not gonna do that so they can have their planning time back?
No, I think that's been a major,
That's been a help.
that's been a major asset when we had, for
But is
instance,
that creating our problem where they don't have their planning time?
No, they have the option, like, I know our secretaries in the elementary school, and I'm sure you guys secretaries do too. We don't say, you're going to do this for that teacher, we ask them, would you like to be the sub for this person? You don't have to be, don't worry about it, if you don't want to be, if you'd like to be, just remember that the board's gonna pay you $25 an hour extra. And that's about all we say, and a lot of times the teachers will take advantage of it. Now, we've had people turn us down because they're exhausted, they want some time, they want that hour free where they can make copies, take a little bit of time for themselves and get prepared for the next hour that they have with their kids or whatever it is.
And that's why I'm saying, if it's something that as a majority, or is it just a few people that want the hour? My point is, if they need extra time for planning and we're trying to figure out how to get the extra time planning, why are we taking their extra time away from them during the day? Why aren't we keeping that, not taking that? I mean, for $25, most people wanna keep their sanity, so why don't we make them take their planning time and that gives them their break during that?
Colleen?
Well, I think people who were taking advantage of it too had student teachers. And so like a block 2 or a block 3 student teacher, depending on what they are, that student teacher will take over teaching for the whole entire day. So that teacher can like then be able to help out during that time, so they can use that plan time, because while they're monitoring their student teacher, they're able to get stuff done as well. So I think that's
That
where,
at least is in the
And the
elementary
student
school.
teacher is in charge of preparing those materials.
yes, correct.
During,
think in the-
during their full-time teach.
where we've really seen that as a benefit is in the high school.
In the high school, we send the kids to the classroom where the planning time is happening. And a lot of that instruction is videoed, or they're have a prepared lesson. So they're working independently, and many of those teachers still able
So they're still
to
doing, okay.
do some of their work. They're still monitoring kids, and so there's some distractions differently than if they're in the room by themselves planning, but they still do get some of their plan time. And again, they do it willfully, not forcefully.
So Dina, you're the one in the elementary school, and since the other one's in here, what would your suggestion be for the school board to, the most likely or easiest thing for the school board to relieve some stress from them is what?
I think I've already said my opinion. I mean, I really feel that it's possible to take an hour and a half every other Friday or once a month on a Friday to help the teachers at least. Give them a break, give them time to get stuff done for the following weeks ahead. I mean, that to me is pretty simple, and I know that some of you are thinking that's gonna be a problem with our parents. You're talking an hour and a half, and I will tell you, if you pool multiple districts around this district, many of them have PD days on Fridays. Many of them do. They have early release days on Fridays. That, to me, that's just one thing. I mean, I think that we can be very creative too, and I'm okay with showing them a movie in the auditorium too. I mean, I'll take the kids in there too. The problem with that is that we have social distancing that we have to worry about. So where does the band hold all of the band exercises? It's in the auditorium. So for me to take my kids into the auditorium, I can't do that right now. I can't take my kids into the elementary gym because that's Mr. Tice's PE time. I can take the kids into the elementary library, but I can't take 342 kids in there. I mean, I can only take one grade level in there at a time. So it is just going to be some creativity. I will say, I think that we have tried to be creative because we were supposed to have a wacky Wednesday. I knew I took that away from my staff for my third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers. So I've been trying to give them a 30-minute break one day this week. You know, and it's hard for me to come up with 30 minutes myself because I feel like I'm busy too, but I try and do that for the staff just because I know that time is very precious. And I told them, I don't care if you take a mental break, if you go read a book, if you're doing something PD, if you're making copies, do what you need in that 30-minute period so you're ready for the rest of the day. I didn't care. But sometimes to make that happen in a regular school day, that's very challenging. Not just for me, but for those guys too. But if it's blocked off and we know ahead of time that that's gonna happen, then it makes things a little bit more relaxing for the teachers, more relaxing for the parents, easier to get done. That's my opinion.
So if a day is 6.75 hours, and we give them an hour and a half for 2 Fridays, that's 3. So essentially, we could take 2 of those 7 extra days and do 2 Fridays in January, 2 Fridays in February, and that would at least be a start.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, Corey. Just use some of that time and give them some half days on every other Friday or whatever.
I mean,
I think that's what, and I don't know what that does to parents. I'm not in the parents' shoes, so.
And I think if we put that out, if we decide that now, if it allows parents a month to at least plan out those 4 Fridays. The other thing is that, you know, I understand you don't wanna lose very many of those days.
No, it's not that I don't wanna lose them, I just don't wanna,
But to me, the value of those days means more to the teachers. than
sure.
it
No, I
means
don't, I'm good with
to
using the days.
Well, in the elementary, it does.
That's really not a problem.
60% of them.
I'm all about using those days. It's just, you gotta be careful that just gotta understand that could push over if you do have, I don't wanna have pressure to not take a snow day when we need a snow day.
I think it.
Because
it
that's
could-
a safety issue.
It could push us over, but I think once we get to the end of March, I think we'll be okay with the weather days.
What about the high?
No, I agree with you. I'm
gonna-
not worried about
Yeah.
using some snow days to do this.
And
That's
then-
not
Tell me
bugging me.
what works for your guys'
One idea, I had 5 pages of emails. I didn't wanna read them all to you, so I didn't read them all. But one of the ideas, I mean, it's just a common theme, just what they said is time. And one of the ideas was early dismissal. Another one was to hire a sub. And so kind of putting the two together, I thought about having a sub for a substitute. So our teachers have one plan a day for a 90-minute block. Say they have planned second block, I could give them a plan or a sub for first block, and then they would have 2 full blocks off for a half a day. And then I could use that one sub for 4 different teachers, which then would give 4 different teachers a half a day off. Now, I say that, but there's still a lot of prep for a sub. And there's, cleaning up after a sub, and so there's a lot of work getting ready for a sub, but would it be worth them having 2 plans side by side and have that time to get caught up? So that's one of the things we thought about at the high school.
So on that notion, if, like early dismissal on a Friday, that would not affect any sporting event that was planned. We don't have, I mean, if you release early, that doesn't change. If you got a ball game that night, you still play the game and all that, correct?
Correct. And practices go off at the same time. And high school, you can kind of do that. In junior high, it's a little harder because high school kids transport themselves. Junior high kids are relying on transportation. So it'd be a little harder for them. They're going home on a bus at whatever time, but then somebody's got to get them back for practice or, ball game.
Junior high, no Friday ball games, right?
No Friday ball games.
So if it was a Friday afternoon, it was junior high, they couldn't get back to practice, it might be a good idea to advise that we don't have a practice maybe on a Friday afternoon
sometimes
if they're
they
going
don't.
home.
Sometimes
Or have it
they
right
just-
after school and then you figure out how to get them home.
And
Depends on
sometimes,
what the coach wants to do.
Yeah.
Well, and middle school basketball, if it stays on course, it'd be done.
It'll be done, yeah,
Third week of January.
when we get there, yeah.
Second,
maybe.
maybe.
No, I think you're on the right track, Corey. I think
To me, I think
we need to use some of this
The
time.
way we're looking at everything is time is the major factor, and this is realistically the only way that we can do this
Use up some snow days
and
and
use up these days that,
hope you don't have that 5 days.
but honestly, to me, as a board member, okay, if this causes us to go an extra day in May or 2 days in May, I'd rather relieve them or help with their mental health now and
I
worry
agree.
about May when May gets here.
So
And if
it's,
we're lucky, we get to March and we got days
One thing-
left and there's nobody snowed.
Hey, I've had, knock on wood, I've had snow smoking the spring one time in 15 years, so.
but
Only-
We've been
the only-
out 3 days in April.
The only thing I would caveat to you really gotta watch is that you don't push that off on the seniors too much. They have 1,086 hours, so they only have 6 days. So you gotta be careful with them because you can get yourself in a predicament where they have to come back to school after our scheduled graduation, which is a nightmare.
And I understand that, but you know, we're not the only school district in this situation.
I'm not saying that would happen.
So-
I think,
There very
Yeah.
well could be an adjustment made by the State Board of Ed next spring if things continue
they-
to.
they are
they
talking
have
about,
conversation.
they are talking about some potential mental health days, so that might help us in this situation.
I'm just saying, I'd rather cross that bridge when we get to it and deal with December, January, and February now. And then worry about everything else
So
when we need to worry about it.
what's our calendar in January and February for in-service days?
We have
One in February.
one more in February, and we have Martin Luther King Day off. So, I mean,
So we'd wanna figure these out.
4 days.
My question is, would we figure this out where maybe that half day or whatever would fall where, when in connection with one of those, so basically a day and a half?
I think I'd like to ask,
If it worked out.
I think if you give them 4 half days, we let the teachers put them where they think it's best. Put a
All
committee
of them.
together.
You can't have them all taking a different day, you're talking all of them take the same day.
No, I think they'd all needs to be the same due to busing.
And to get it on the calendar for the parents,
Yeah,
which I agree.
I don't,
Should be
I would
manageable
rather,
for the parents.
I would honestly rather the
they know
teachers
ahead
put
of
the
time.
days
If they know
on,
ahead of time.
I'd rather the teachers have a committee and put the days on the calendar and show, and present
Yeah,
that to
that's-
us.
okay.
So that they take the days when they think they need them
And
instead
we
of
can
when
do
we.
that at the December board meeting, cause we're not giving time.
So if they come to us by the
That
December
give you
board
guys
meeting, we'll
time?
get it on the calendar.
Now, who would do that? Would that be the group that met in the summer that would do that, or would that be the admin, or would that be
Could be that task force, that's what I would say.
task force, essentially those members?
It's an awful lot of people for that. I think two teachers from each building or even one teacher representative from each building that can go back and work with all of their teachers and have a committee of 3 teachers that works together. They work with their own teachers, then they come together is the best way to do that.
Nothing against Timatoni, but I think the elementary is the one that would be the one to kind of figure out when these days would be, and then maybe middle school and high school kind of go along with it, so to speak, but I mean, I'm not trying to put words in anybody's
Well, you
mouth.
have their activity calendar to go with that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think it should be reps from each of the schools, and I think if they come to us with their proposal by the December board meeting, we'll be able to get it out to the parents in plenty of time to change an official change.
I think,
3 weeks, 4 weeks.
It's in a couple, yeah, our next meeting is soon.
Just have each building come up with a representative that they want to be on the committee to work.
And figure out the
Together.
days they,
Put that down and then present that.
And
Mr.
if we
Hutton
need to
calling
do rock,
out a
paper,
comment.
scissors, we'll handle that at that time.
Yeah.
Didn't we have, like half-day Wednesdays for committees?
We had collaboration days
Yeah.
that got moved to the beginning of the year. Now,
So-
whether you wanna put those back those were on Wednesdays.
Yeah, and honestly, Friday was just thrown out there, I mean,
Right.
Wednesday might be.
so that's why you
better.
guys can go back and have the
I'm
discussion,
not gonna.
So we had,
yeah.
you know, when you're talking about, it depends on what time you dismiss as to how many hours that takes away. So
Well, if we did, what's our normal, 3:45?
3:20,
3:20 is
we did
dismissal time.
2:00,
2:00,
1:45, 2:00.
yeah.
1:30. What time's lunches get over?
12:45.
12:55.
So that sounds like a plan, so that's kind of a longer term plan. I'm saying January, February's long term considering we're still in school. Yay.
Well, I don't think, what I'm hearing is they don't wanna use that time between now and Christmas
They've already
break.
No, I
So-
agree,
Well, at
I'm just
least I
saying,
think that's what they said.
I think we need to think of
Work on
something,
January, February, and whatever we can get to help.
yes.
Help
That's when
out.
things get long, it's really.
Right.
That's when
after
things get
Christmas.
long, My question out to, so what do we do between now and Christmas break?
We got what we got.
If we, I'm saying creative stuff where the students are in the classroom,
We might be able to do some things like Tony's talking and what Dina's talking.
okay, I just want, you know,
I think there's plenty of ideas on here that have nothing to do with the board.
I'm not saying they have to do with the board, but they're coming to us. The
I
things they
think
want
the
the
big
board
ones for the board.
The
is what
statements
we
for the
can
board
do.
were, come sit with me, come do, so they clearly want us to be involved in it.
So we need a motion.
Yeah, I don't,
I
think-
trust that our admin
I
is going
think I
to
would
do
make
that.
I think I would propose that we have a motion to develop a committee of a teacher per building to develop, to decide on days that they want to have half days, or whatever you wanna call it, early release days in January and
We don't need a
February.
motion for that, do we?
Huh?
Is there,
We don't have to make a motion, no.
to kind of piggyback off of what Kelly's saying, is there something that, I mean, you know, this week's Thanksgiving, but the weeks leading up to Christmas is even the ability to say start next week or even the week after for those, the second and the third week, to give them 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you know, a shorter amount of time, because realistically with those 4, you're looking at 5.5 hours. It's not even a full day that we're taking up.
I don't
out
think
of
we
the
can
7.
do between now and Christmas. I don't think it's fair to our students' families to do something between now and Christmas.
that quickly, or
That
that
quickly.
quickly.
That's just my opinion. I was just wanting assurance that we are gonna be creative within.
We don't have to have a motion, we can just, we'll work
That
with
we're
them and
doing
get a
things
committee together
within
and come back
to,
with.
like, Dina's like,
We
Kelly,
don't have to
I'm
have.
ready for you to make
I don't
some
know.
copies.
So we don't-
I'm telling you,
We
I'm
need a
mad, I'm
motion
mad
to
to make that
adjourn.
copy machine.
Well, it doesn't have to be, it could be something that's worked into the teacher's daily schedule, that they, hey, all of a sudden you get 20 free minutes to do whatever you want.
Exactly, yeah.
And that.
That doesn't
could
impact
probably-
the school, the
that
kids
would
out of
be
school.
Your management and your ability, you know your teachers and their schedules
the-
and all that.
You know, we might be able to figure out Christmas matinee or whatever, we have to work with the band or whatever, but we could do something like that with the
And the band
elementary and
has
then work
those
with some
things
subs. I think you almost have to work with some subs to work with the high school, middle school, and that can help a little bit. To have a
So-
sub when you don't need a sub.
Do you guys got more questions for us? You're the one I can see, so I'm pointing
Oh,
at you. Sorry, Connie.
Big pool is in the way, I can't see anything. No, I think
Well, thank all of you for coming. Thank you, Jackie.
The idea,
Um,
so that's very nice.
So how many days are we asking this committee to come back and schedule for us? How many early release days?
4
days.
4 hour and a half, somewhere in that
2
neighborhood.
p.m.
I was gonna say,
2
maybe they
p.m.
can come up with the number of hours even. You know, maybe there's like a really good break point for everyone that just makes.
Exactly. I don't
Right,
know.
based on the block time and everything.
And then as far as contract language, like Corey had asked about, it's just we have the authority to calendar 181. Is it 181 or 179? We don't,
181 contract days.
as long as the board would approve a revised calendar, we would still be.
You have the authority to release in there when you want to.
Those are my last 2 questions.
So again, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Jackie, Tim, Lisa. Appreciate you guys coming, having your input. Does anybody have anything else they wanna talk about? Thanks for everybody's time. I'd make the motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy staying home.
Thank you, guys.
There you go.
Have notes, tell me what to get. I had notes for me.
Usually. I like about 5:30, I heard, no, I guess
Nicholas is
it's
sending me a message.
like 4:45 or something early. I need for this out, cause I am like
Same
a
should've went for
hard copy
2
when I
weeks.
work.
Fucking that damn pen
I
says.
shocked though. I've printed Word documents since March.
Yeah, that's,
Well, it
Well,
wasn't
because I
that.
don't go in.
And I'm like, I'm not printer.
That's
And
right.
I even brought my own printer to my home and I had to plug
Nicholas
it
would be the one that would say.
in. I was like, I can do it, I can do it. I'm always waiting on you, Brad.
Let me just jump right
Oh,
up
shoot,
here.
you're going. No, you're.
I was gonna say,
Thanks, Tony.
Oh, shoot, I didn't hear.
Thank you.
Have the kids been bothering these? Cause one time my son came in and I got a selfie of him and give me like,
Aw.
we found your dad. I go, it was funny.